Welcome! In this video, I'd like to continue my discussion from yesterday of the use of Zotero, offering you a few more tips and tricks that might help you be more efficient in the use of this vital academic tool. Let's get started. Here, I'm displaying the Zotero.org landing page. And I'm going to click the link here for Upgrade Storage because it includes a description of the cost of storage on the Zotero.org web servers. With each free Zotero account, a user will receive 300 megabytes worth of storage space on the Zotero.org server. Now, if you were to assume that each Adobe PDF file that you store in your database is about 2 megabytes in size, quick estimate is that you could store maybe 125 to 150 entries in your Zotero database and have all of the bibliographic data and the attached PDF files stored on Zotero's servers. If you need more space, 2 gigabytes is available for $20 per year, 6 gigabytes for $60 per year, and an unlimited amount of space for $120 per year. Now, these prices are very reasonable, especially at the 2 and 6 gigabyte tiers. But this is only for your Zotero data. So you might already have cloud storage servers that could work with Zotero. And if you're already paying for those services, or you already have a free account with another server that has sufficient extra space available, you might find it actually less expensive to use one of those servers. Now, I use a service called Box.com. And when I display that website, let's see, can I find pricing? I want pricing for individuals. A free account with Box.com allows 10 gigabytes worth of storage space. Now, I've been collecting data in Zotero for well more than a decade and storing my data, my PDF files on Box.com, and it's worked perfectly fine for me, and I think I've used somewhere in the neighborhood of about half of my allowed space. So I expect that as long as Box maintains this free individual account, I should probably never have to pay for storage space of my Zotero data. Now, the nice part about using Box is that I can also synchronize some of my other files on my iPad or on my computers to my Box account, storing them separate from my Zotero PDF files. So for me, it's more flexible, but it did take a little bit of finagling to get it set up. Let me show you what I had to do. First, I had to read the instructions at Box.com. Then I had to read some fairly arcane documentation from Zotero. But what I learned was, in my Zotero application, in the preferences, I'm able to choose where my PDF attachments or PDF attachment for each item in my database should be stored. And I said, sync the attachments that are in my library using not directly to Zotero.org server, which would be very easy to set up, but to a WebDAV server. And the WebDAV server I'm using is dav.box.com/dav. Okay, it's computer terminology, so it's maybe a little bit more difficult to understand. It's not plain English. It's a little bit of computer configuration. And then on that server, in my Box account, within the directory Zotero, all my library files, the PDFs, are stored. Now, the bibliographic data is still stored on Zotero's server, but the PDFs are not put on Zotero's servers. The PDF, the attachments, are put on the WebDAV server that I've subscribed to with my Box.com account. And then I use my personal email address, my password, and I had to verify the server. There are a couple of bugs in the use of Box.com, but once I read the instructions, I got the bugs sorted out, and everything has been working very smoothly for many years. Sometimes it's useful to know in which collection, that's the list here on the left side of my Zotero window, in which collection any given item is stored. So I can tell that this item, linguistic accommodation, etc., is stored in the Zotero practice collection. That's the one I create just for temporary use in recording this video. But on my Mac, if I hold down the Option key, I can see that a copy of this entry, this item, is also stored in my language collection. And if I click a different one, this item is stored not just in Zotero Practice, but also in language and my sub-collection, English. I use these collections a bit in the same way that I would use directories or folders on my storage media. I create these places into which I can put files because I like to organize things. It makes me feel good when things are in what I think is the right place. On a Windows computer, you can select an item and then hold down the Control key, and it will display the same items. It will tell you in which collections that item is stored. And on a Linux computer, you can hold down the Alt key on the keyboard to get the same result. All right. In my prior video, I showed you how to drag and drop an item from the Zotero window into a document and have an APA-style reference entry created. Let me demonstrate that again, and then I'm going to show you another trick. So here in the background is my Microsoft Word screen. If I just drag and drop that, I get an APA formatted reference entry. On the other hand, here I'll pick a different item just to show you I'm not playing fast and loose with my instructions. If I press Command-Shift-C on my Mac, now I can go into Word again and paste, and I get the reference entry. This is particularly useful when working on a notebook computer in which the screen is smaller, so any given window, even the Zotero window, might take up all of the screen real estate, and it's difficult to drag and drop between applications. So in this case, I could Command-Shift-C and then paste in the new location. On a Windows computer, the complementary keystroke is Control-Shift-C. All right, next trick. How do we quickly get data from Google Scholar into Zotero? So here, I just have to position my windows so I can see both my web browser with Google Scholar, and I just conducted a search for linguistics. I needed to find some items in which there were PDF files available. And over here, toward the left side of my desktop, I can see my Zotero application. For this trick, I have to be able to see both applications. I don't have a keystroke shortcut for copying data. But I'm going to take this PDF file here, drag and drop it into my Zotero database. It creates an entry, and it took a moment, took a few seconds, but now I've got an entry with all the bibliographic data I need in my Zotero database, and I've got a PDF copy of that document that I dragged and dropped. Now, what I don't know if this will work for all types of files, but I found it works very well for PDF files, and PDF is a little bit of the lingua franca of file formats, especially within academics. So I work almost exclusively with Adobe PDF files, occasionally Microsoft Word files, but because I'm a little concerned about the security risks of opening someone else's Word document, I prefer to work with Adobe PDF files. All right, using these collections and using tags to organize things. This makes me happy. I love organizing things. So I've created a collection here called Zotero Practice. Zotero Practice on my Zotero account is subordinate to bang example, exclamation point example. These are other items that I've used in prior videos. And then just for the purposes of these tips and tricks videos, I created another collection, Zotero Practice, just so you only have to look at 4 or 5 items at a time. I also have a collection for argumentation, and under that, creating of an annotated bibliography, critical thinking, evidence, fallacy. These are all topics that at one point or another have come up either in my personal research or in preparation for a class that I'm teaching. And I find it very helpful to create these collections based on one of 2, or sometimes both, criteria. Either I create the collection based on a particular topic, such as the use of evidence in argumentation. Or I might, if I were a student, I might create a collection for each class in which I'm registered. So the research that I conduct for one class is kept separate from the research data that I collect for another class. And you can see I've got a variety of interests. Here under education, I have academic honesty. You might know from one of my videos earlier this summer, I presented a number of videos on the topic of academic integrity, plagiarism. And the 2 of those are opposites. when one is academically honest, one is not plagiarizing another's work. And I suppose you could say it backward. When one plagiarizes, one is not being academically honest. I also have some information here about the use of background music, particularly while doing concerted cognitive work, when one's studying or reading carefully. And does music affect a student's ability to study or to read well? I have a collection here on ethics. But in any regard, I've got a number of collections, some of which I hide in the YouTube videos only because they're personal collections of things that interest me that I don't discuss publicly. But there's another way to organize information. Let me go back to my Zotero practice. I'll select one of the items. Now, I know this item is related to linguistics. So I am going to open my tag viewer and I'm going to add a tag for linguistics. And down here in the bottom left, you can see in my tag viewer that this item has been assigned the tag linguistics. Now, in Evernote, in my videos about Evernote, I've described the value of tagging notes in an Evernote notebook. The similar practice applies here. I am assigning a keyword, a tag, to an item in my Zotero database to make it easier for me to later find that item, even if I can't remember in which collection I've put the item. Now, these other items in this Zotero practice collection do not have tags associated with them. If you'll watch over here on the right-hand side of the screen, as I click through these, no tag is displayed until I get to the one that I just tagged as linguistics. But I can take all of these items, do a click and a shift click to select them all, and I can drag them down onto the linguistics tag. And now each of these has been assigned the tag linguistics. So I can assign a tag manually using this add button, or I can just drag and drop it onto a tag that already exists within my database. I'm going back to the info window so we can see the bibliographic data. And by the way, I think in a future video, I might address the use of notes with items in a Zotero database. That's a little bit of a rabbit hole to go down, so I'm not going to address it today, but I'll just point it out that maybe you want to explore using notes yourself, and I'll explain their value and some ins and outs in a future video. Did you know that when a PDF file is attached to an item in the Zotero database, the full text of the PDF file is automatically indexed, which means when I conduct a search for a word or phrase in my Zotero database, I can choose to search only the title, the creator, the author, and the year of publication, or I can search any of the bibliographic fields as well as any tags I've assigned, or I can search everything. I generally like to search everything because that allows me to search not just the bibliographic data, the tags, but also deep within the PDF files where a word for which I'm searching may be present, but that same word may not have been used in the title or have been assigned as a tag. This happens with the deeper you get into the research within a discipline, you'll find that many words are used within academic articles, even though those words don't exist within the title. Or other words, synonyms, are used in the title. And there's one little quirk about Zotero. In my preferences, if I go to the search option here, occasionally I rebuild my index. This is Zotero's index of the words that are stored in the fields, the bibliographic fields, the tags, and the contents of all the PDF files. Now, once I cleared my index and then I rebuilt it. I'm not doing that again. That was an all-day process because I have quite a few thousand items in my database, most of which have an attached PDF file. That took quite a while to execute. So I'd caution against clearing the index unless you detect that there's a bug in the index and then you want to erase it and create the index of words within your database from scratch. Last topic for this video is advanced searching. So down here below my list of collections, I have a number of saved advanced searches. For example, this one searches my entire library for all journal articles that do not have a DOI, a digital object identifier. And that means for one reason or another, maybe a DOI was not assigned at the time I integrated an item into my database, or maybe in bringing the data in from Google Scholar or my university library, something went wrong and the DOI was not captured and stored in my database. Now, you know, an APA style reference requires us to use or to identify the DOI, the digital object identifier, if one has been assigned by its publisher. No. We must identify the DOI if an article has been given a DOI by the article's publisher. I have to be careful to make sure I accurately identify the antecedents of my indefinite pronouns. All right, password memorability. These are 5 articles that are related to the topic of password memorability. Now, let me show you how this works. I'm going to right-click and then edit this saved search. This search is running through my entire library, trying to match any item that meets all of the criteria that I've set. One of the first criterion is the title contains pass. Now, I chose pass rather than password because sometimes passphrase is used. So I'm looking for pass in the title. I'm also looking for memor in the title. That way I get memory, memorability. Yeah, that's it. I'm looking also that the abstract contains the word password. Now, I will miss any references any items that have passphrase, so I should probably change this to pass. And the abstract must also include memor. This is a fairly specific, a very precisely created search. Let me see if I can find one that's a little bit broader. This one is for social media and fake news. Again, it searches my entire library for an item that has any of these criteria. So it could just have one criterion, 2 or 3, or all of them. So the difference between any and all is very important here. And I'm just looking for things that are related to social media in the title, misinformation in the title, fake news in the title, disinformation in the title, and I've always picked contains, but I have other options I could have picked. Looking for title where the title is social media would give me a pretty limited set of results because very few articles have just the phrase social media as the title of the item. Or is not, begins with, contains, and does not contain. And using different combinations of these options, I can very specifically tailor my search. Here's how I created the search. Instead of using this search box here, I instead used the magnifying glass search. It pops up an option where I can now say, I want in the title social media plus over on the far, oh, you can't see this, hold on. Plus in the attachment itself, it must have marketing. Now, if I want to save this search so I can run it again and again in the future, I can click Save Search. But I'm just going to run it once. These are all the results in my database that have social media in the title and the word marketing in the attachment in the PDF file. So this advanced search function is really useful. It can be a little confusing at first, but once you get the hang of and you understand how the options work together, it really throws a lot of power your way. And it makes it easy in the long run to find just the information you're looking for in your database. I hope you found these tips interesting. I find them very useful, and they help me make Zotero, or they help me be more efficient in my use of Zotero. Until we meet again in a future video, I wish you the absolute best of success in all of your academic work, and particularly in your use of Zotero. Bye for now. Mika, did you sleep through the whole recording of that video? Did you pay any attention? Are you going to get any better at the use of Zotero? Oh, you love it when I touch your paw, don't you? You think that's pretty great. Yeah, but I wish you'd pay more attention so you get better at using Zotero. All right, you can go back to sleep. I love you.